Al and I have been good friends for a long time, and I've been fortunate to write a couple of books about the Hawks. But before we start for a minute, Al's got an introduction in the audience. How about the greatest basketball player ever to step on the floor in St. Louis?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Bob and Alma Pettit for coming up from New Orleans to be here tonight. I appreciate that. And, you know, the other day I was reminiscing about the years that Bob and I were teammates. And I got to thinking our careers were pretty similar with just a few minor differences. It's true that Bob scored 18,335 more points than I did. And it's also true that he had 12,019 more rebounds than I did. And yes, he was also the most valuable player for 4 All-Star games. And it's also true that he was the league's most valuable player twice. But other than that, we were pretty similar.
If we can interrupt you a second. If Bob's in the audience, Bob, would you stand up so folks know where you are, can see you? There he is, the great Bob Pettit.
Well, Ron hit on a lot of the points about what you were. Unfortunately, that you didn't get to play in the championship season. I still think you're owed a ring because you were on the team. You were just in the military, and you were sitting in the stands at the championship game.
Correct. Mr. Kerner flew me in from Fort Dix, New Jersey, to be here that night that Bob scored 50 points against the Celtics to win the World Championship, and it was a real honor to be here.
And by the way, that 50 points still is an NBA record. Nobody has broken that record to win a championship game. Tell us about that first season now when the team was here and expectations low. It was a bad team in Milwaukee. Bob came along and lifted the team, but no one thought about playoffs and whatnot. Crowds were kind of sparse, and all of a sudden this team got better at the end of the season. You got into a playoff against the fabled Minneapolis Lakers. You'd won championship after championship. But tell us about that 3-game series.
That was a great series. We tied with Minneapolis and had a 1-game playoff to see who got the home court advantage to go on in the playoffs, and we lost. So we played the first game in St. Louis, and we got by at 116-115, and went up to Minneapolis, and they eked by 133-75 in the second game, beating us by 58 points. Now, you know what the odds of us winning the next game were? Not very good. But somehow, we came back and won the next game by the same score, 116-115. So that meant that the Lakers outscored us by 56 points, and we won the series. And that was important to go on because, as Greg said, the crowds weren't coming yet. So we went on to play against Fort Wayne and won the first 2 games there. The crowds were starting to get a little excited. We lost the next 2. The 5th game was in Fort Wayne. We went to the final quarter tied, and we lost out, but came very close to playing in the championship that year against the Philadelphia team. But that started the development of this great fan base that we had for quite a few years after that.
And it was the very next season that the team got to the championship round against the Boston Celtics, and but for a missed shot at the end, in double overtime, might have won an extra championship.
That's correct. And if that's the game, I think it was in overtime that Alex Hannum was the coach. And I believe he called a timeout in the overtime, and they were down by 1. And he said in the huddle, "I'm going to take the ball and throw it from the end line across the full court to the basket." He told Bob Pettit to stand on the free throw line. When it comes off the basket, 94 feet away, you catch and put in the basket. So everybody said, okay. And I'll be darned if he doesn't hit the backboard. It comes out, Bob gets the ball and just barely misses going in.
And I remember that other statement. Slater Martin said to Alex, you couldn't throw the ball in the ocean.
That's right.
One more story, and you want to tell it about Jack McMahon.
Oh, yeah. My mom and dad were immigrants from Italy, and they knew nothing about sports, zero. I remember getting my first paycheck from the Hawks, and I sent home a little money, and I called, I said, Mom, did you get the money? And she said, what'd you do wrong? I said, I didn't do anything wrong. You know, I got paid. She said, come on, tell me what you did wrong. Whatever it is, we'll get over it. To the day she passed away, she never could believe that somebody could get paid for playing a game. But anyway, when I did go to the Garden to play, she'd always go to the games and sit next to Jack McMahon's mother. Now, Jack McMahon had played at St. John's University in New York, and he and I usually split time. But Jack's mother, if there's a stereotype Irish lady, white hair, ruddy cheeks, my mom has olive skin, dark hair, complete opposites. And my mom was the type of lady that always was concerned about hurting somebody's feelings. She was always thinking about the other person. So there's one particular game. Jack starts the game ahead of me. He's having a great night. He's making every shot, passes it on the money. We're beating the Knicks. I'm happy for the team, but I'm ticked because I'm not playing. And finally, with 1 minute left to play, the coach calls a timeout so Jack can come out, get his round of applause, and he puts me in. I'm still ticked. I haven't played the whole game. With that, my mother turns to Mrs. McMahon, who she couldn't pronounce because she spoke broken English. And she said, Mrs. McCohen, I'm so sorry. My son has to go in for your son.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Al Ferrari of the St. Louis Hawks into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.